in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity, tomorrow never certain. What dwells behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, could either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners. On the shore, relentless in the war, the legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest, the cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Trembling in the haze with the semblance of a blaze. With gratitude and rage, we touch another page. With delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Just I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.
Hello, hello.
Hey there, Joan. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I am doing very well.
Like my new space? I think it kind of fits the vibe for today's video.
Okay, let me see here. Is there a scratchy thing going on between your hair and the microphone, perhaps?
Oh, it's probably my hair, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's yeah, there you go. Bam, like a professional. I like it.
I know, like camera's good. Gotta figure this thing out.
We will work it through. We will figure it out, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we will. Now, how come we don't ask questions like, how do you manifest a glass of water? How come we ask about manifesting money? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, isn't it odd though that I don't ask you about manifesting a cup of coffee this morning? But there are
Right.
certain things for which we say that manifest, and I think that it is perhaps an interesting point. Any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of think about like how we've progressed, right, in civilization. I mean, I think it's one of those things where, water, yeah, like water was always just available to us. And I don't think we ever experienced not having water available to us. And so maybe the difference with water and money is that money is not always available to us. So I think there's a difference there in how you like perceive like what's available. And if everyone just grows up and believes, oh, water's always available, so there's never really been, oh, how do I manifest water? So, I mean, that's how at least I make that connection. I guess I've never really thought about it that way, but also at the same time, it's, we're in a different time where we survive differently than the way we used to. We don't really need to survive. No one's, like there's no lions chasing us or anything, or like mountain lions or, bears like trying to kill us off or whatever. And we're not like in that type of survival mode anymore. We're in a different type of survival mode in our society. So I think it's just a difference in like how, we see what's available to us and not. If that makes sense.
It makes sense. So there are a couple of things that I see there in this question, which we're just kind of actively thinking out loud here for the first time. You're seeing real-time thinking going on, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, shout out to you. There are two factors there. One is the desperation factor. In other words, if this thing is seen to be scarce, right?
Exactly.
Then there is I need to manifest it somehow. The language of manifesting becomes there, because it's not well, how do I manifest a clean teeth, or manifest brushing my teeth, manifest water, manifest walking. These things these are commonplace. I can do these, but there's certain things which are more out of reach, where number one, as we said, seem to be scarce, and then number two, there's a certain level of fate that is associated with it, where there's a perpetuation through time of my last generation and this generation and everybody. Like, it's almost like you're stuck. It's almost like you're born with it, kind of a thing, right? So when the things take on that kind of characteristic, then we get into this whole idea of manifesting it. There's a complex set of steps that it takes to get something such as money, for example. Complex / simple or whatever, but they're there. The steps are there. However, there's another thing that I want to kind of just say at the onset before we get to this video, which is that there is something to the manifestation talk, right? And we're going to not just go in there, but see how it actually works out by using this video. And some people in the chat apparently are fans of the teal swan. Do you know of her, by the way?
It sounds familiar. She might have popped up at some point, but I've never seen her content.
Okay. So let's see here. Let's see. Let's get right into it, and we'll see what you have to say about the teal swan here. Make sure. Fair use. You hear the sound?
Today we're going to talk about money. Our beliefs about money is what limits money from flowing into our experience. Money in and of itself is not good or bad. It's a tool, just like a hammer is a tool. It's a tool which enables your freedom in this current society which we have at this current moment. You cannot be in the attitude of lack, of need of money, and attract money into your experience. Therefore, you must find a way to vibrationally step into the idea and the feeling space of what it might be like to feel like you have abundance and like wealth in order to attract money into your experience. As far as the universe is concerned, it is as easy to manifest millions of dollars as it is to manifest 1 penny. That's because our idea of manifestation and our idea of what is big versus what is small is what limits our own abilities to manifest what is big versus what is small. you can amass a fortune, and that takes just as much energy for this universe as it does to manifest a penny. So it's your beliefs about what's big and what's not so big, what's out of reach.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Comes the...
You skipped the intro. I know she had a trippy intro.
Oh, you were waiting for the intro this whole time?
I wanted to just laugh again.
Yeah, maybe we'll go back. Well,
it's okay. I'm laughing now, so it's all good.
It seems to be spinning over here now. Let me see. I'll pause, and then a couple of things that already stand out. I like certain premises that already been stated, and you can say what you think about them. In other words, you already mentioned the tool aspect, right? That money is a tool. Money is not this kind of thing where it justifies the asking of questions such as, does it make you happy or not? You know, you don't ask whether shovels make you happy or not, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is, she then used vibrational language, okay, to talk about the fact that if you are desperate, you do not receive. Okay. Now, this is something that we've talked about sales before, and we will continue to talk about sales and things like that. We know about that idea of being desperate and not getting the deal, not getting her number, not close. In other words, to put it in her terms, the universe, she might say, well, it gives to an open hand, you know, and someone that is kind of not desperate in that particular sense. Any comments so far? Because I think she laid out the premises well. I'll only push back on the whole vibration talk, but that's a language thing between some people that like to quibble about stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a spiritual language thing, but I think it translates to, you know, what we like. Everybody knows, like what everyone understands, like when it, in regards to what you're talking about, like, you know, the confidence in selling to someone, the confidence in asking her for her phone number. It's, you know, energy, right? Like you give off this certain energy that people just, they can read that. Like if a guy asked me out and he wasn't confident in himself, like I can feel it. And I'm like, okay, well, this guy's not really man enough for me. if he's, you know, playing games, or he's, you know, shy about it, or he's just, you know, it's like, with everything, with sales too, you might think you're confident, but the way you present yourself and the way you know, someone perceives you, you know, where you feel like the way you word things and just your tone of voice and, you know, however you're feeling. I know I've been through sales situations where I didn't feel confident in myself because it's just like, oh my God, I think we're too expensive. Like, especially when in the beginning, when we're just like starting to get more traction, I knew there were times where I just did not sound confident, and guess what? It didn't sell, you know? And it's like one of those things where I was like, well, they had the money, but I didn't have the confidence to, you know, book them. I didn't believe enough that we were the right band for them. And I think that's kind of what it means. Like the vibration thing that you give off, I think that's also an energy, the energy that you give off, depending on what emotion you have.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I think that the struggle there is that there is an attempt to describe it from the external, you know, or to kind of use such language as, you know, vibration or energy, some kind of mediating thing between the two people, so on and so forth. However, when you were saying, for example, I don't feel like this man is man enough for me or something like that because the confidence is not there. And I like that the fact that you translated, because all that kind of align yourself with the vibration of blah, 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 it could be taken and put it into a different bucket called confidence. And then we can unpack it and relate it to the specifics of what we were trying to talk about. Now, if you just simply look at it from the internal perspective, you are not made to feel comfortable or confident by someone whom is not comfortable or confident. So it's not the big crazy mystery, right, of what's going on there, right? It's almost like if somebody came in with a torch and started, you know, a blowtorch, right? And started going at it, you know, going at your head with it. You're like, you know, no, that's not making me comfortable. You know, I'm going to, my body, my mind, and so on and so forth is going to have an aversion to it, generally speaking, right? So I think that for the sales aspect and all those human interaction aspect, this particular perspective which I just gave, which is just this perspective of, you know, just look at it from within and note that the person whom is not comfortable on stage speaking to you doesn't make you comfortable. And that is the beginning of the bad things that tend to happen, and one of the aspects of the bad things.
Right.
However, there is another aspect of it which is still mysterious, and maybe we'll go as we go further. We'll see where you may find something to be mysterious or not. However, I have a question for you. Did you have a different mindset about money at some point that you have recently changed, or did you ever change an idea about money? Because this whole idea here is about your consciousness affecting quote unquote abundance and manifesting things and so on and so forth. Have you gone through any transitions in your life when it comes to money, wealth, and so on and so forth? Were you a
Oh yeah, totally.
you used to be a dirty hippie?
Not exactly. I mean, I experimented with that, but well, so I grew up with not a lot of money, right? I mean, we did okay. My family and I, we did okay. I mean, we came from the Philippines and then we moved to Hawaii. We lived there for a time being, and just trying to figure out how to live the American dream. But there was always this scarcity mindset. Like I remember growing up hearing my mom, she always said this, like I literally heard her say this, I'll never be rich. I'll never be rich. Like this is how, this is just how I'm meant to live. I'm meant to just be poor. I'm just meant, she always said these things and she kept repeating it and repeating it every time something went wrong. I mean, the thing was that my dad didn't think that way. My dad always felt confident that he can make money. I mean, he always made more money than she did. Both my parents worked full-time jobs or like for corporate, type companies. And my dad was always confident. He always made the money, but he had 5 kids. So it was stuff between the 2 of them. And then my mom having that kind of mindset, looking back, I realized, oh my God, like I adapted that mindset too. I definitely spent majority of my life in that type of mindset. It wasn't until maybe, when I moved to LA, where I just started to find myself, think for myself, and observe other people. And for sure, it changed, especially when I started reading more books. And, I made videos about this. I made videos about money mindset. I made videos about books that changed my life. And they really helped me in a way. I mean, I was stubborn at some point, but when I really changed my relationship with money, I just noticed more money came. I mean, for sure, there was action taken. There were maybe a couple moments where just like, wow, that was such a weird coincidence. But when I believed that I deserved money, I definitely acted upon that idea, that deserving money. And yeah, I mean, I definitely had that broke mindset. I had the broke mindset. I definitely, looking back, I really didn't make a lot of money back then. I always felt like I was scraping by, and I kept reminding myself like, oh, I'm scraping by. Oh, I'm broke. I'm too broke to do this. And when I stopped saying that, like, I really don't say that stuff anymore. And it changed. Like I noticed, like, just changing my attitude about it, the way I behaved in my general, day-to-day stuff, I felt like I was able to attract it more, but it comes with also like the action, and like just believing in it, the confidence, like, me being confident that I can make the money.
So we describe this adrenaline rush that we can give others if we are confident. We can also give ourselves, and we can give ourselves the vice versa as well, right?
Right.
And then
absolutely.
also there's the aspect of action, which you just added to it, right? Which is it's more likely you're going to take action when you are confident about it. And so anyways, I think that this is rather important because you just talked about attracting it, and then there's something out there called the law of attraction, right? Which generally speaking is well, let me not say something like that, okay? So there's something called the law of attraction, which is BS, right? And the point is, there is truth that is in plain sight a lot of times. However, when you misuse it, and when you add a lot of woo onto it, you're going to, on the one hand, push a certain group of people away from it. And then on the other hand, you're going to have people give it a certain kind of homage and reverence without actually practicing it, because they don't really even see it as something practical. They kind of see it as something just to make them feel good and repeat.
Magical.
And say, yeah. So it is rather important that we're kind of breaking down the confidence the vibes that the people feel,
It's
to
like
use the
the
vibration
vibes,
word, right?
right?
So that is the key place there where it'll fit. That, to say vibration there, right?
Mhm.
Right. We use that in common parlance to represent that particular thing that we just described. So, but anyways, let's continue with our video. So I like her premises so far. She's kind of laid out premises. Money's a tool, and also the idea of the confidence gives you the thing. So let's see. Fair usage.
So when you visualize, you want to get super, super elaborate with it. So let's say that what you want to do with your money is buy a new house.
She's not talking about
You want to
visualizing.
visualize what
one
it
of
will
the-
feel like to walk into that new house, what every aspect of that house will look like, what it'll smell like, what it will feel like against your hand. You want to visualize it with such intensity that you have to remind yourself when you come out of that visualization where you are. Your visualizations and visualizing what you want relative to money has to be believable for you. A lot of people go wrong with this by visualizing millions of dollars. Of course, everyone wants to be a millionaire, but it's not believable for many people. And if it's not believable, what you're going to be feeling within you when you do this visualization is, I want that, but I don't think I can really have it. That is going to be a detrimental visualization to you. So you want to pick a sum or pick something to visualize relative to the subject of money that actually makes you feel good, that's believable for you. So that may be $300,000 instead of $1 million. When you put yourself in the space of why you want something, you are pulling.
All right, let's make a quick comment here about visualization. Any thoughts about visualization, generally speaking, or with regards to what she said specifically?
Yeah. So with visualization, okay, so here, let's kind of backtrack a little bit about this whole law of attraction and manifestation stuff. I think the problem is it sounds a certain way to us, right? It sounds like woo-woo magic and whatever, and it just comes to you if you think about it. There's a line. We live in a physical world, and I think there's a line that people miss. And so now back to what she's talking about is that, sorry, I kind of spaced out. What was I talking about? Yeah, so there's a part that you missed, right? And with the whole visualization thing, I mean, how often do really people imagine, their ideal life? How often do you really picture, looking into your bank account and seeing, like $10,000 in there all the time? I mean, that's the whole thing with perception too. I think part of it is that, how I say, like, when you, how's that wording? There's like this phrase, I won't believe it until I see it. Yeah, so it comes with that, right? So if you're just the type of person who just doesn't see something, you've never tried to see it, meaning visualize, how are you supposed to take action towards it? Okay, so kind of switching topics here. Well, not really, but for example, I drove to Mexico, like, I don't know, like 2 years ago, just for fun, like just to go surfing for a day. And I remember driving through Tijuana and like going down to the beach areas, and I went with my friend with Daniel. Remember Daniel?
Mm-hmm.
I went down there with him, and he's Colombian, so he definitely understands like the whole Latin America mentality and all that. And it's just funny, like just coming from the US and then driving to Mexico, it's like, wow, it's like a whole different world, but we're right next door to each other. Why is it so different? And it's like, why is Mexico this way? I'm driving through these beach towns to go surfing, and why it's so dirty. Like for us here in the US, you think of a beach town, it's, upscale, clean, you don't see trash. And I asked him, like, why is it that they, treat their country this way? Why is it a mess? Like, why is it that nobody, does anything about it? And then when we drove back towards the border, we were waiting like for 2 hours or 3 hours in line trying to get back to the US. And, there's a lot of these people like selling you random stuff and asking again, like, what is this? Like, why is it that they think that this is how they can make money? Like, why is it that they, this is, how, this is what they do, to survive. And his thing was that they have no foresight. Like no one's ever told them they can live more than where they are. So this is all they know. And this is how they continue to live. So, as far as like visualization, right? So those people were never able to visualize a life more than what they have. So they continue to keep living that life. So I think that's the part where like people don't understand that line between like the whole law of attraction, manifestation stuff. It's that, it's not like visualization. You just put things on your vision board. It's like, can you really picture yourself wealthy? Can you really picture yourself having that dream house? Like, that's the thing. Like, if you can't see it, you're not going to believe it, So I think, hopefully that will make sense. But for me, it's just that's what that visualization is. It's that do you have that foresight to see your life more than where it is right now?
I like that. No, and what you're saying makes sense. The whole, if you can't see it, that you will not exceed your best expectations of yourself. In other words, it tends to be the case that, you're never going to get past your mental limits, right? That's why something from time to time, that's why you have to keep on expanding your mental limits and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
Now, so there are many aspects of this whole visualization thing, but I think that you've touched upon an important one here, which is the almost like exposure. I would say that exposure is a fundamental principle, and visualization is just one mode of exposure, right? Because you could get your exposure by being born in the right part of the Swiss Alps to the right family, right? And then you'll be exposed to all kinds of things that will say, oh yeah, I am entitled to such and such, right? I do deserve to. Anyway, shout out to, before I forget, Blind Guy, his wife, their life. I've had that going.
I'm trying to like respond. Like, it's for some reason when I try to do it on my phone, I'm trying to like tag people to say thank you and all that. Doesn't work on the phone.
It doesn't work on phones. Yeah, it's only a PC. So yeah, it's a PC.
But thank you, Blind Guy.
Yes. So, again, visualization. The basis being exposure. Generally speaking, people need to be exposed to different circumstances so that your neurons, your nerve endings, your eyesight, your smell, your taste becomes used to it. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a room. This is a Costco. This is my bedroom. Like, I'm used to it. But when you throw into a new environment, things get kind of alert, right? You're kind of like, what's this? What's going on? There's a little perturbation that goes on. So generally speaking, you want to be able to visualize certain things. And when it comes to training, for example, you want to visualize knocking the person out or getting that jump or nailing that backflip, whatever it may be, because you want to expose, again, those same nerve endings and so on and so forth. That's why I say that visualization is a mode of exposure. Because if you practice it, or you could hang out at the Bentley store or again, being born into the right family and so on and so forth, you could be exposed that way. But visualization is a way of exposing yourself to certain things and letting the magic happen, because the rest is out of your control. The fact that you are comfortable with a room, that's not it. You just go to the room and you look around and and then you're comfortable with it. And the next time you come, you're comfortable. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I've observed, like, ever since I've realized this whole, like, changing your mentality and your mindset, like, you can, like, actually perceive things once you expose yourself to it. I started observing how people are. I've observed, observe how my family are, like my siblings, and I've observed super wealthy people. Okay. So for example, I know this girl, she's like in her mid-20s. She comes from like one of the richest families in Europe. Okay. So she just happened to go to school out here. I knew her, I met her. She was trying to be a musician, 26 years old, but like supposedly like she just always has like $10,000 in her bank account. But she is, the daughter of like, I don't know, the third richest like guy in Germany. And, you watch her behaviors. It's like money is nothing to her. And no matter what, she's set because she's born into like a billionaire family. And she's set, but you see, like, I observe like the way she dresses, the way she speaks, the way she just presents herself, and the way she spends money. She's just so in that perception, that she's fine. Like, she never has to worry. She never has to work. I mean, who knows what she's going to do in her future? But I know, as far as I know, she's trying to be like this German rapper or whatever. But she said, like, she's just like that mindset. Like, she's just always going to have money. And no matter what, like, people will throw money at her too. it's really interesting how, you know, have you ever like met people where it's like they're already wealthy, but people still throw money at them, you know? And it's interesting how that energy, they give that energy off and it just bounces back at them, you know? Whereas at the same time, like I observed myself when I was broke, or I observed, hold on. I think I accidentally, I accidentally kicked my table. I think that USB unplugged. But yeah, so, you know, I observed myself when I was in that broke mindset. I've observed, you know, people I know that also have that broke mindset. It's the same thing, you know, they give off that scarcity, you know, energy, broke energy, and it just, for some reason, they just end up putting themselves in that position because that's all they know. That's all they understand. I mean, it's kind of like what's her name? Practitioner. She just said, you know, you keep shooting at nothing and you keep hitting the same target. I mean, it's exactly what it is.
So the people that, because, you know, we have that whole exposure thing, but you've kind of opened up another door, which has to do with the exponential increase that comes with getting something, and also the there's an exponential race to the top and an exponential drop to the bottom a lot of times, right? In other words, you're seeing these people, a planet that gets bigger is going to get bigger in terms of, you know, if there's a field of mass and, you know, you got gravity because you're big, and then you're going to suck the stuff. And if you're small, you have no gravity. The little stuff you have is sucked away from you. You're going to get sucked into someone else's gravitational well. There are many places, you know, I think it's Matthew chapter 25. For those whom have, more shall be given, and they will have an abundance. For those who do not have, even the little they do have, will be taken away from them. Matthew principle, all those things, right? We know that is true. And you said that you see this person, and there's a through line in terms of an autobiography of how this tends to happen, in the sense that you, because you have an abundance mindset, you get into a business, you get into a particular kind of a endeavor, right? You start to succeed at something. Because of that, people see you as someone that is trustworthy, right? And that can take on more and more responsibility. Hey, here's my business problem. Or, hey, you're good at what you do in particular, so I'm going to be your client. Or, hey, you know, here's my daughter. I don't know. Whatever it may be, it's like these people have, and more gets thrown at them. And that's just how it works. And it makes sense when you look at that simple kind of through line that I gave. And this begins with that exposure and openness that we are talking about, right? So don't be put off, ladies and gentlemen, by the vibration thing. And I'm going to continue before we continue, any last things on this whole visualization point?
Good vibes. Good vibes.
Good vibes. I like it. Let's do this.
Pulling yourself vibrationally into alignment with your highest intentions and highest purpose. That allows money to flow to you faster than almost anything else. And most of us never ask the why we want the things we want. That will actually pull you closer to the truth of you and your life. 3, root out and replace your limiting and mixed beliefs relative to the subject of money. You have to shift your relationship and your association relative to money if you want money to flow into your experience. Love of money is not greed. Love of money does not make you shallow. Love of money in and of itself is not wrong.
Pause. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let's go ahead and acknowledge here would you mind reading what the super chatter says on the screen? Thank you very much.
JD, £5. Heineken for you, learned brother.
Thank you. I think I recognize this guy because of the Heineken reference. And yes, I do catch the Heineken. I catch it. Yes. Followed Dr. K Polymath over here from somewhere else out there in these dark interwebs. Another thing is, okay, so she just mentioned the whole moral aspect. Okay. She just mentioned the whole, it's a shovel, but people tend to want to ask about whether it makes you happy or not. Money making you bad, and so on and so forth. How did you have some of those beliefs? Because you mentioned earlier when I asked about you changing beliefs, You
Mhm.
elucidated the whole "I'm gonna be broke" belief. But how about those bad people with their money belief?
Right.
Did you have that one?
Oh yeah. It
Mm.
was. I always heard, "Oh, money is the root of all evil," You know? And yeah, I mean, people believe that. I believe that. And then there was this whole like stupid math thing. It was like math. Was it money is the root of all evil, and then there's some kind of something square equals women. Women are evil. I can't remember. It was
Oh
some- yeah, you heard
that
that one.
that thing.
Yeah. So I definitely got into that mindset. Like I hated money. You know, people with money are assholes. Rich people are assholes. I mean, I hear that all the time. I mean, I still hear people say that. You know, but there's definitely that belief. And again, it's you're just pushing money away again. You're not, like we said, you're not allowing it into your experience. So because you don't like something, somehow energetically you're pushing it away. So it's kind of like, I don't like that guy who's staring at me at the bar. I'm just going to energetically push him away. If I don't put my attention towards him, if I don't show interest in him, I don't think he's going to come up, and he never did.
Well, let's get into perhaps with more complexity, because I would suggest that while you're over there, screaming about the evil of money and how Jeff Bezos is a horrible human being, you're also secretly wishing for money, right? So it's not
Of
as simple
course.
as you may make it seem, as though you were a holy angel for one church and then switched over to the other. So how do you handle this dissonance? How do you handle the cognitive dissonance of you actually really wishing that the
Right.
guy at the bar with the weird vibes, you actually want him, but you're pushing him away, but you want to get on all fours? Go ahead.
No, okay. Well, first of all, no, I don't want the guy to come up to me, but so back to the whole money is root of all evil, rich people are evil, whatever. I mean, again, it's money is just neutral energy. It's whatever you make it out to be, right? She said in the beginning, money is a tool. It's just something you use to exchange for something that you want. But again, people become greedy. People are never satisfied. It's just human nature. We're never satisfied. And so we think, oh, well, I can buy more things with money. So if I had more money, this and that, and then it becomes a thing where, money talks, and people realize that the more money you have, the more you can get away with. And that's where the evil happens, like just the greed, the greed takes over. And then you realize, oh, the more money I have, the more people I can control. So unfortunate, it happens. It's just the way we see the world right now. The more money some people have, the more corrupt they become. But that doesn't mean that money itself is evil.
Yeah, you got a lot of shovels, you got a lot of tools, you can do a lot of stuff with it. It's all the tool analogies work, right? You can cut stuff with it, or you could kill people with it, whatever, right? that kind of a thing. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. The whole idea, I think that all really matters here. Now, when it comes to the whole change in mindset of money, and also I was kind of lucky enough to I've always had no issues with the money thing, in terms of, no, it's it's capitalism and individualism, and I'm gonna get mine all the way.
Right.
But also, there are levels to it, in terms of you have to grow from level to level, with each pass. And I think there's something she mentioned later on in the video, which is, or previously in the visualization aspect, which is visualize something that's going to be realistic to you at that time, right? And with time, just so people don't, so people understand how the thing tends to progress, that with time, these particular expansions in terms of your abundance view is going to occur gradually. It's not going to be just from 0 to, oh, everything is infinite. It's like, no. It's like, as Joan said earlier, maybe just maybe right now, if you're used to seeing negative numbers sometimes in your bank account, maybe just kind of visualize, is 5,000 always having 5,000, and everything just goes up and down from 5,000, where 5,000 is your base? Is that kind of is that realistic? Okay, then think about that. Become used to the fact that that's something that can appear on your phone. And this will begin to change a lot of But if we move also now to this whole thing about the morality, is money evil or is it not? There is truth to the fact that you can become more detached, and there are many, many pitfalls. Okay. Um, and you can go out with it in a disastrous way, more spectacular way in terms of your evils, right? You know, if you're just a bum versus if you're a bum with billions of dollars, rather than just, shooting one needle, you have a party where you take over the whole of the MGM Grand Hotel, and then there's a billion people with a billion needles and hookers everywhere, right? It's gonna be a more grand display, right? And I think that people tend to sometimes mistake that with, oh, this was, and the money got them to that point. It's like, no, the money just made it such that you could not ignore their popping out, their their final hurrah. Because I think a lot of people have suffering and pain and dissatisfaction and meaning crisis and all kinds of things going on. But if you have money, then you can kind of spill your spleen out there in the world. I don't know if what I'm saying there makes sense in just the sense that it's that whole thing about power corrupts. I think it's a separate question from the idea that having money will allow you to display. It gives you a megaphone to display those things which are already there, and you're already going to act on them anyways.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's again like whatever you're able to perceive, that's what you're going to act on. So like back to what you were saying, like if you're so used to negative bank account, $5,000 might be way out of reach for you too. And if you're that person with a negative bank account, like maybe start with like smaller numbers, like, like they always say, like start with small wins. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about that, like, just start setting goals, start setting goals that seem, okay, well, I can picture, $2,000 in my bank account for now. And then once you kind of get yourself to that momentum where you're acting upon like, keeping $2,000 in your bank account, then you can like push yourself like, okay, maybe I can push myself to make $4,000 this time, So it's all just like what you're able to perceive and then what you're able to make yourself do, to reach that goal. But it's people will act based upon what they're familiar with or what they know or what they've been able to see. I mean, like with you, you said you've never really had problems with money. Like, did you ever feel like it was always pretty easy for you to, work and get the kind of money that you want? Or
that's not
like,
the part. It was never the part of it being easy. It was more the part of never thinking this was anything permanent.
Right.
It's like,
I mean, that goes a long way.
Yeah, because depending on which game you're playing, right? Because if you're going to play the white collar game in the whole money/work realm, it's going to be a long game, right?
Right.
In other words, you can't just, pick up this trade and then get into journeyman, open that business real quick. So, so there's going to be times when, okay, you're a little broke and then there's this and that and you act like a loser sometimes and you make certain mistakes or whatever it may be. But there was never an idea of, oh, I'm stuck here, and while I was wherever here is, I never felt any contempt for the people around me. I think in one of our conversations, I talked about the whole, whether you're in a G6 private jet with crystal and caviar with your homies, or you're in a $500 hoopty car with a nickel sack of stress weed and a 40, right, with your homies, it is essentially the same feeling, right? And people can imagine it like, yeah, it's not like the G5 infuses you with extra proteins and dopamine or something. It's like, no, it's just you and your homies hanging out with your favorite drug and liquor. So there is the notion, though, that you must be comfortable at all levels, really. This is my own kind of addition to that whole, the vibe, the comfort, the confidence. You need to be comfortable and confident at all levels, either
Exactly.
at the White House or at the base, or the whole, because what tends to happen with people who have a lot of money is they tend to lose it too and then get it back also.
Right.
We all know it happens to all of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're willing. They take risks because they know they can bounce right back.
Exactly. So if you're scared of the bottom, it's also a problem. If you're scared of the top, it's a problem. If you think the bottom or the top are immoral or shall we say, contemptible of any kind. In other words, when I was down there, broke, going to Chaffey Community College in Rancho Cucamonga, right? A school you may know.
Oh, I know that school. I didn't go there, but my brother went there.
Okay, when I was back in those days, living in Fontana and just kind of doing my thing over there, I was playing this particular long game and dealing with certain whatever issues I'm dealing with. I was partying with, as I said, in the hoopty with the nickel sack of weed that you get, back in the days when it used to be fun and illegal.
Oh man, back when it was illegal, I remember it was like, oh my God, weed is so bad for you. Oh my God. I remember I went through that. It's like, oh my God.
It's not fun anymore,
I know.
You don't have to go, you don't have to drive over to the corner. But anyways, so then it was the same thing. As I said, I didn't look at it as though I was going to be stuck there, but I did not look down on my nose at these people. It's just the same thing. It's the same people. Again, boardroom, whether the table is made of gold or whether you're sitting on the floor, you have to feel comfortable fundamentally with the moment. And I know now I'm the one who usually cautions not flying to the mountaintop, but you let me just kind of go. Now we're already back. Now we're talking meditation. But before, let's take a step back. Shout out to the K Polymath in the house talking about visualizing infinity. That indeed is the case in the sense that, but not everybody can though. Let me ask you this. I've kind of suggested this particular notion, and I think you've agreed with me, but I've impressed you on it in the sense that, what is your idea? Like, for example, when you're visualizing infinity, and I said, well, not everybody can. It was some of the time I said, not everybody can float up, can hover above. People need to deal with problems on the ground in real time. And, people need to be told whether to wear a mask or not. Like, you can't just be like, oh, open your eyes, man. They're blind, like you can't be telling colorblind. I think K Polymath gave it examples. Like, you can't be chastising someone over being colorblind or tone deaf, right? And these things are perhaps in other aspects of people's cognition and perception as well. So what is your level of like, everybody is, on one hand is hippie, everybody can do anything and visualize. On the other hand, you're like, you know what? Some people, not so much. Some maybe they can get, and maybe we can help some people in between, if you will. What's your kind of hierarchy looking like?
The hierarchy?
Are you an egalitarian? What are you?
I don't know those big words.
Nah, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, the hierarchy. I mean, yes, there's a hierarchy. Okay. I mean, we talked about this before. There is a hierarchy. There are the people who are up there, and then there are the people down there. I mean, when you, like in that last video that we did, right, there was that hierarchy that girl just did not like. It's like, well, that's just the way it is. There's the boss and there's the people that work for them. I mean, that's just the way the world works. And, if I understand what you're asking me, it's like, so I can't just think that everyone's going to be a boss of their own company. Then who's going to work for under them? It's like, it's just the way it works. Not everyone's
going to be able to visualize things either.
Right. So that's just the way it is. I mean, there's this whole thing where, the world can just go back to normal. And, I don't want to talk too much about that, but it's like, unless everyone's on the same page, it's not really going to, get to that perfect state of whatever, like living or being. But so back to the hierarchy thing, like, it's just unfortunate for, to see that there's some people that just are never going to see that. They're just never going to be exposed to that unless people like us or higher, whatever, shows them like, hey, this is how you can live. You can be more than this. Going back to the story about Mexico, it's like, who really goes around there and tells them, like, you can live more than this. You can see more than this. I mean, there's the ones that come here all the time, like people in Mexico that can afford to come here and all that. I'm sure like maybe they can share their experiences to their families back home, but the ones that have never, been able to see that kind of life, I mean, how can you expect them to suddenly change their mindset, because they've always been, lived this way. They've only seen this way. They've always been treated this way, unfortunately. And it's sad. It's sad. But again, it's like, is it our responsibility to bring them up? I don't know. Like, that's the part. It's like,
perhaps a caveat there that we understand that there are certain kinds of, shall we say, if you're in a war zone, for example, to use an extreme example, okay, if you're in a war zone, your situation vis-a-vis food, clothing, and shelter is not cannot be completely. You're not at fault, even though it's still your responsibility to kind of evacuate or fight, whatever it may be. But you're not completely at fault. So we understand that the external circumstances that kind of determine certain outcomes that we see. However, so on this idea of visualization, law of attraction, so on and so forth, I think that perhaps we are stumbling upon another problem, because we're saying that, hey, it is true. Take all that visualization stuff, call it confidence. Take all that you're attracting, blah, blah, blah stuff, call it, hey, you know that you're not going to close the deal unless, if you seem desperate, you're not going to get her number. If you seem desperate, you're not going to X, Y, A, B, C if you seem desperate. Well, how do you not desperate? Well, exposure, right? And one way of exposure is through the visualization. We're tracking so far. But one of the problems also is that perhaps, right? One of the problems is that people make it seem as though everybody could do it. And here perhaps is, because I think that's another issue. Because it's almost like asking, well, LeBron, how do you play basketball, right? And then LeBron tells you all these things that he does from the LeBron perspective, right? And then you start telling everybody else, oh, you too can be LeBron. You just do all these things. Look what he said he did. He thought about it real hard, and then he looked, and then he takes 5 breaths, and it's like, he's LeBron.
Right.
You're never gonna do that. So I don't know if you. I think I'm just opening up the case that perhaps, and it was sparked by K Polymath's comment there about visualize infinity, and then I said, well, not everybody can visualize that. You say, there's a hierarchy, and now we're saying perhaps one of the problems is telling people that these things, okay, that are kind of, shall we say, synonymous with success, can be done by all. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, so can everyone visualize infinity, right? I'm sure everyone has the capability of doing that, but again, what's the environment they're in? I mean, that's the thing. It's the being back on Earth and just being in this physical space, but we're all built the same way. We're all built the same way. We all have a brain. We all have a heart. Oh, what did I do? Hold on.
You unplugged your thing again.
Is it back? Hold on. Let me just double check. Come on.
No, you. Or is it the battery, perhaps?
Might be the battery. I can switch it out.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and play the video while you switch it out. And
okay, go ahead.
Go ahead and mute you so you can do your thing. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, remember what we got going on here, and let me go ahead and acknowledge the super chats before, if there's any other one. Yes, we have another super chat. Shout out to you. Thank you very much. And you say yes. Okay. What amount is too much? Question mark. Could I earn just as much as I give and still want? This brings to mind the question of flow. And this is the thing that people need to understand about the money tool, right? Money is a tool. Tools work within particular realms, particular systems, right? A spade is for digging the earth, right? And, a particular tool in Microsoft Word is for the typing and stuff like that. So these tools have environments in which they work. And one of the rules of the environment, which is the economy, right? One of the rules of the environment which money works, which is the economy, is the idea of flow. And you may have heard of the velocity of money, right? So if I understand you correctly, practitioner, you're kind of pointing out to the area of how much money is enough money. And the idea is that is the wrong way to look at money, is how much flow is enough. In other words, if you can handle it, if you are indeed the person that's going to take us to Mars, then you can afford to flow through the economy billions of dollars, and you're justified in doing so. And in terms of the companies and your supply chain and your employees and so on and so forth, right? And that is, then there is no, and if it takes billions more, then there is no limit, right? In other words, it's about the flow that is required for the powering of the engine vis-a-vis what you're trying to do. There's an engine that's required to do what you're trying to do in the economy, in the world of transactions, in the world of interactions and creation between human beings. And the flow is very important. So I don't know, practitioner, if it makes sense, you can say yes or nay, or maybe I'm crazy. But are you back, Joan? With you can unmute yourself. Shout out to Kevin Samuels.
Oh, I'm
Unmute
here.
yourself. Okay, you're there. Let's go ahead and I don't know. You see the comment there, and I was just saying that the comment
Mhm.
to me alludes to the question of flow and how much is enough and this and that and the other. And I just said that you just heard what I said, that flow is really the deal. And if you can manage a pipeline, because I put it this way, there's a tank and then there's a pipeline. The pipeline is more important than the tank. The tank is how much you stash, but it's about how much you can flow through. That's why people always ask you how much are your sales. They don't ask you how much you have in the bank, right? It's how much are you flowing through the market. And if you have an engine, a machine that flows $1 billion a month in the economy, then that's what it is. That's what it takes. That's what you're doing, So there is no kind of, because you're not just sitting on the money, right?
Right.
Anyways.
No, I mean, you think about it, like, okay, so there's a question, what amount is too much? But according to who? Like, according to who is it too much or enough? I mean, you might get to the point, well, this is what I thought was enough, but then you're like, well, I could have more. So it's, really, yeah, like it's about the flow. Because I mean, think about it. It's like, oh, I wish I could make $1 million. But, if you've been working for quite a while, for a few years, throughout your adulthood, like at some point you probably collectively had $1 million, throughout the years. But did you keep that $1 million? Probably not. But, again, it's about like that flow, right? So it's not like, oh, I want to, if I earn $1 million, I'm a millionaire. But like once you spend like, $10,000, you're not a millionaire anymore, So it's really, it's about, I totally agree with the whole, like, it's the, the flow, like creating that pipeline that it keeps coming to you. But, is it enough or is it too much? It's like, who's really to say?
There you go. There you go. There you go. So let's see. And the last thing that our friend here, the Teal Swan, mentioned was about this whole morality thing, the money is evil thing. And we came back with a vehement pushback against it and kind of elaborations, elucidations, making things clear over here. Simple, measurable, actionable, intuitive. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, can't hear her.
Your freedom to achieve what it is that you want. Loving money does not make you a terrible person. This is what happens when people who are chronically poor, who have grown up in households with lack of abundance, have been fed these beliefs like money makes you a terrible person. The reason they're fed those beliefs is because when you're in a space of poverty, it makes you feel better about yourself to believe that there's something inherently negative with the people that have what you want that you don't believe you can have. But if you want money, you can't want money and attract money and at the same time have a negative association with money. That is a vibrational contradiction. So those of you who consider yourself spiritual people and are really on the fence about whether it's okay or moral to line up with abundance and money, have got to get off of that fence and decide that they're going to commit to money.
Let's take a pause there. And I would like to address something which I think is just kind of implied here, which is that the fact that it is out there that people have these, shall we just say, negative notions about money and the people who have money and the pursuit of money is kind of taken for granted. It's just taken for granted that those things are out there. And if you're a spiritual person, you're more likely to perhaps have to struggle with this kind of a notion out there. And it is never quite addressed. Well, why this particular thing? If we agree that this is a pathology, that there's a problem here with our perception of money, why do we perceive it that way? Like, what is the problem? I could start with perhaps a trivial observation in that regard would be just a fear thing, in the sense that it is a difficult thing to do. It is a difficult system, this economy, this exchange, this valuation of people and goods and services and so on and so forth, to participate in it at a high level. It's difficult, so on and so forth. So that which you fear, you kind of immediately start to have all kinds of crazy stories about, there's a monster underneath my bed, that kind of a thing. And also because of mimicry, in terms of we want what other people want,
Mm-hmm.
and the people who have things we don't want, we have bad feelings about them. Take that scene where this new baby comes into a room. Oh, well, two babies are in a room. There's a red ball, right? I like using this example a lot because I think there's a red ball. One baby is playing with all the other toys, doesn't want the red ball. Another baby comes in the room and looks at the red ball like it's the best thing in the world, goes after the red ball. What does the first baby now think about that red ball? It's like, what's up with that red ball? Like, I want that red ball, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
human. This is human nature 101, from
Mm-hmm.
cradle to grave. Okay, let's not pretend like we're no longer that baby. No, we are. And the reason why you go ahead and put on that watch and this, that, and the other, and eat quinoa is because other people are doing it, and that's okay. It's fine. Because people want to get on their house. I know I'm independent. I come from a different universe. I'm completely untied whatsoever to the human species. They're whatever. No, I'm different. No, that's bullshit. But again, back to the idea here of why exists this pathology of looking at money as though it was some crazy weird thing that was gonna eat you up, and we just have to deal with it. Like, you just have to get over it. Like, where does it come from? Does anyone promote it? Any thoughts?
Oh yeah, watch TV. Watch all these movies. I mean, we've been programmed to have this relationship with money. There's so many movies out there that portrays rich people as like the bad guys, and then like the whole Robin Hood thing. Like steal from the rich, give to the poor, and it gives that idea. Like these stories, these movies we watch, and shows that we watch, they all get us to believe that this is what it is, like this is the truth. And if you again we go back to like what we said in the beginning, like since beginning of civilization, people didn't have cash. We used other things. We traded goods, we traded and then eventually like gold and all that came to be and became the tool to exchange for goods, and then it just developed into what we have cash now. And it's the way society builds itself, right? It's the way.
Well, let's pause here.
Mhm.
And it just kind of occurred to me that we are talking about money, so
Mhm.
therefore, there's something about money, and I think it's apropos. It is apt because I just mentioned that it is taken as a foregone conclusion that it's going to be this kind of a. She mentioned vibrational contradiction. Like that. Okay, okay. There's going to be a cognitive dissonance, perhaps is another way of putting it, right? That people have with regards to money. Now, let's talk about what money is more elaborately. People say, well, what is money? And then people start talking about the attributes of money. They say, well, it needs to be fungible, as in, $1 here is $1 there. There's no difference.
Right.
1 pound of gold here is 1 pound of gold there. There's no difference. It needs to be divisible. Okay, cool. You can keep on shaving up the gold or reducing the dollars down to cents and so on and so forth. And then it needs to be a store of value and a medium of exchange, all these kinds of things, right? But really, those are just attributes, okay? But really, the story, the reason why this tool exists, okay, is because of the double coincidence of want, which basically means, okay, you, I, and a few people live together, right? The double coincidence of wants means I make shoes, you raise goats, okay? The money thing used to be solved with barter. That was the money system, right? The double coincidence of wants means that I want goats and also you want shoes, right? What are the chances that tends to happen, right? The chances that I just happen to always want goats and she wants shoes, right? Everyone I give shoes to wants shoes and they have the thing that I want from them. It's like, no, that's not gonna happen, right? Then it's like, Joan, I need this goat, and you're like, I don't want no shoes, bro, right? Then it's like, what can we do? How can we solve this problem? And we say, you know what? There's this thing called cell phone minutes. We all use it, okay? It can be divided into 60 seconds, right? 1 second is 1 second everywhere. So there's that fungibility and, shall we say, divisibility attribute. We all find it to be useful, right? We all use it, and that kind of a thing. So gold typically is a commodity, such as gold or salt or so on and so forth. Not gold, I mean, I said gold as money typically is a commodity such as gold and so on and so forth. This commodity that has its attributes. And now I'm using cell phone minutes as a modern kind of example, right? Because we can understand it. Cell phone minutes is a real commodity, right? We want those cell phone minutes. And I can always say, hey, how about I give you, right? Let me just swipe my phone over to you right now, 10 cell phone minutes, and I get that go. And you say, you know what? Good, makes sense, right? So cell phone minutes now becomes our money. It is this story that money is about, right? So money is not some kind of, oh, this thing has a list of attributes. The attributes emerge, an emergent property of this story, right? So therefore, it has to be fungible and divisible and a store of value and a medium of exchange. And it has to be kind of the same everywhere. And we can denominate everything with it. We can always say, well, I don't want, shoes, Ike, but I always want cell phone minutes, right? So we all now start stacking cell phone minutes for shoes and goats and stuff like that. So the reason I kind of took the pause here, because I was like, no, we are talking about money, right? So let's take the boring 2 minutes to kind of just say, hey, by the way, this is what money is. And this is why it's kind of insane to look at it as though it was some kind of harbinger of either a harborer, I should say, of evil and so on and so forth. But any thoughts? Did I miss anything with regards to the birth of money?
Right. It's funny that you talk about supplements, because like for everybody, we have unlimited minutes now. So it's like, I don't know how much of value that is for anyone now, but it's something we understand in modern society. But yeah, it's whatever we perceive as valuable. I mean, if you think about a dollar bill, it's a piece of paper, but we see that as valued as $1. Well, what is $1? So it's just whatever we see as value. I mean, like now we're not in that society where we trade things, because we're not in that like self-sufficient type thing where we just grow our own food and we just trade with our neighbors or whatever. I mean, we have more things. We have more things that we buy. We have more things that we, have for pleasure and for flashing off, like fancy watch or jewelry. I don't know, shoes, Chanel shoes, and those were just things that we didn't care for back then. But again, when you think about like the kings and queens and their crowns and all that, then we see that like, wow, like that's what wealth is. You get to wear gold and, just kind of transpired into this whole thing where it's like, yeah, we live in a material world. We have material things, and are they really of value? I don't, like people see them as valuable, and it's like, okay, how do you get that thing? Well, it's money buys that thing. And I mean, going off on a rant here, but like, we gave like, we're just in a side of it. We just give money so much value, and what would we do without money? Are you going to suddenly learn how to farm and grow your own food? Probably not. Like, I think we're like in a society where
no matter what you do, that story is going to happen between me and you, Joe. No matter how you reset it, there's still going to be the double coincidence of wants. Right. And it's just, unless you just completely centralize everything, put everybody in a cube and then have the government make everything and feed it to you through your intestines or something like that or whatever it may be. But there's something else I want to also mention about the whole, because we're here to talk about the whole manifestation. I think that we've kind of cleared out the idea that, yes, there is a confidence aspect, there's an exposure aspect, visualization is a key aspect. Then we're talking about the trouble with people's view of money. And then we're looking into the psyche and seeing, generally speaking, not going too deep or nothing like that, how these things kind of manifest themselves. Now, there's another thing also, which has to do with aesthetics. And you touched upon it when you mentioned the crown of the king. Now, first of all, there are outward manifestations of power that we as human beings just like to have. It could either be that, oh, this thing is very expensive. It's hard to get. It takes 10,000 tractors. And hey, he just puts it on his head, right? Such as the jewels and the diamonds and stuff like that. Or he has the ability to kill, right? It's just another kind of way in which we, for example, one way of defining the government is that it has a monopoly on violence. In other words, government is the one that can monopolize violence. They're the only ones that are allowed to kill your ass, right? So, no one else. Like, it's like, these are all mine. I'm the only one who gets to kill in this mug, right? So the idea is there are these manifestations of, shall we say, power. That's an ancillary thing. But the main thing I'm saying here is about aesthetics. And I think that there's something that people look towards aesthetics as though it were superficial and frivolous, and they associate wealth and money with aesthetic pursuits, mere frivolous and surface level pursuits. My pushback on that is not to say, oh man, it's not about the aesthetics. My pushback is to say aesthetics are goddamn important. My pushback is to say, no, 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 no. If you want to be a pig and live in a pigsty and eat potatoes off the floor and roll in your own feces, fine. Okay. No, I'm taking the fine linen and I'm taking things that are difficult to get, such as rare metals and stuff like that, and I'm going to put it next to my finely roasted potato and rack of lamb, okay, with very difficult to grow grapes that have been fermented and blah, 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 right? In other words, I completely reject that whole, aesthetic. I'm going to live a lifestyle of asceticism, because they become saints all of a sudden. Like, everyone's a saint now. Everyone is living this monk lifestyle. And how dare you put the diamond in your cufflinks? I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to get all heated talking about this. But any thoughts as to that? Because I think that's part of the contribution into this whole kind of into the whole vibrational contradiction.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. So aesthetics can also be symbolic things for people. Like, oh, you have a nice car, that means you probably can afford it. But there's also broke people who buy Teslas and can't afford to pay for it. Decide they drive Uber with their Tesla. It's a true story. I heard about that. And so it's a thing, right? Like with aesthetics, you can either see it as a symbolic thing, okay, I can afford this. But there's the other aspect, like, well, I want good quality. I deserve, to have a nice bed to sleep in because, I worked hard for it, and like, this is what I want. And so it's a symbol. I think aesthetics is a symbolic thing. You can take it as a bad symbol or a good symbol. It just really depends on the person. I mean, like, you want nice linens, well, why not? It's like, why not? I mean, I want a nice, like, handbag. Well, why not?
Thread counts are important for sleep, right?
Yeah.
Nice thread counts, nice silky shirts, and nice things. But not to be fair. In other words, I put it on that level of intrinsic value, the same level as happiness. For example, if you say, I want to be happy, people don't question, well, why do you want to be happy? Right? And I think aesthetics are the same thing. If I want this aesthetic play, and I will explain what I mean by that, and I've probably explained it before, you probably heard me say that. If I want aesthetic play, it is not to be questioned. It's like asking me why I want to be happy. In other words, aesthetic play is that thing that causes me as a child to play with a ball of yarn, to play with a stick, and as an adult want to go to Mars. So it is the same thing. One is just billions of dollars. Again, back to the whole pipeline idea, right? How big a game are we playing? Are we just playing backyard, jump rope? Or are we saying, how about if we tied the rope between Earth and Mars and we made an amusement park? Isn't that what human beings do? A huge aspect. I'm saying it's fundamental. I'm saying that it is key. I'm saying it's as essential as quote unquote happiness, this whole aesthetic thing. And to have it so corrupted as for people to regularly think that these things are frivolous, that, oh, you shouldn't dig the earth to find something that you can turn into a button just because you wanted to, right? And I say, no, God damn it, while I'm still human, I'm going to assert my goddamn human right to be a human and not your version of droid that just does what, the only functional things. I just stay here in this cubicle, back to that box, right? They want me to put me in this box and want to feed me with the right amount of nutrients, okay? No more, no less, okay? That a government approved, okay? That Fauci stamped. Anyways,
Are we going there?
I think it's your fault. You're getting us all riled up today. Well, any comments before we continue? Just play a little bit more and then conclude. Any just comments about this whole idea of aesthetics, and also the idea, before we forget the arena that we're in, the idea of money being a bad thing, this tool being a bad thing, this thing that facilitates transaction and the store of value and so on and so forth being a bad thing. There are certain nerves in me see it as pure evil, because it's just looking at life and the vitality of human beings and saying, no, slap that kid down. Why are you playing with the yarn? Anyways.
I mean, okay, so aesthetics, right? It's like something you look at, it's pleasing, it makes you comfortable, it makes you feel like, it's convenient for you. I mean, again, what's aesthetic to you? I mean, you got to have to see that from different perspectives, like working out, like like having an awesome body, you know, like that is that aesthetic too. Like for me, it's like if I look myself in the mirror and I have a six pack, like to me that's aesthetically pleasing, but for someone else, and maybe it's not, you know. So it comes also too with like your perception, like being able to
100%.
see, yeah, like, you know,
Many
being
different
able
sports,
to,
but they all share one thing in common. And the reason I use sports because sports and music and so on and so forth, those are all things in the aesthetic arena, right? So many different sports, but they all kind of share certain things in common, which is excellence and abundance. In other words, in order to live as a human being, I don't need to do gymnastic moves, but here's what I can do. I don't need to run as fast as that. I don't need to drive a car that crazy. I don't need to do any of these things, but hey, here's what I can do. I don't need to tie that jump rope between Mars and Pluto, but hey, here's what I can do. That seems to be what we do from cradle to grave. It's kind of like, hey, check this out. While I'm here, okay, I don't know where this is. I don't know where I came from, right? In terms of actual knowledge, not to talk about faith, right? I don't know where I came from. I don't know where you came from. I know that you don't know where either of us, so you can't fool me, okay? So while we're here, how about we take some rocks and some air and some this and some that, and how about we have a good time? So that's kind of all I'm saying. And people who want to squash that in the idea that, oh, it's frivolous, it's surface level, I would caution and push back against that. So that's my church, that's my sermon. Let's go ahead and see what she's got to say next. Fair use. Unmute. Go.
Commit to improving their vibration. Commit to adapting a positive attitude relative to money if you want to see it in your life, which we all do. 4, if you're going to spend money, line up with that decision. There's nothing worse than making a decision but pulling back from it vibrationally, i.e. spending money you don't feel good about. So even if you have to spend money on something like bills or like alimony, line up with feeling really good about spending that money. And then you won't be preventing money from coming to you because you won't be focused on the lack or focused on what's being taken from you. You can't do something that you think will detract from your abundance and attract abundance into your life and maintain wealth.
I think perhaps the teal swan, by the way, she puts out some good content. So ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and check out her channel. And I think we'll probably continue, but I think this final point that she made will be a good one for us to kind of conclude on. And I'll ask for your thoughts here. And basically the idea is you don't want to do things that scare you. And I know it's counterintuitive because I'm sure you can find about 70 of my videos that say, do things that scare you, right? Okay, so here's what I mean. What I mean is, in the process of doing things that scare you, your goal is to get into the fear, grab it by the balls, and master it, right? So the idea of me telling you, now to be very specific with this example and in this realm of money, to give somebody a tip bigger than you think you can afford or than is necessary. I always say $5 cup of coffee, give a $20 tip, for example, that kind of a thing. If $20 is what scares you, if $100 is what scares you, do that. But the goal is you want to redo it, relinquish that fear. Okay, so now you're no longer at that $100 fear level. So you got to step it up. We mentioned earlier that these things have to happen incrementally. So you start at the $10 tip and you master that $10 tip. Again, you grab the $10 tip situation by the balls, and then no big deal for you anymore. You're like, let me try $50 tip next time. Let me try $100 tip. Oh crap, $1,000 tip, right? But the point is, you're trying to master these particular levels of fear, right? And then you do it, because I think she gave a perfect example of like, make sure you're okay about it, and then you take the action, because it is just the truth that your organism, okay, is going to want to prevent you from interacting with things that scared it before, that messed up its vibes before, right? So you want to actively go in there and capture the vibes of what the moment feels like when you are giving away this thing which you are in a scarcity mindset framework attached to. I can't give $20. I can't give $50. I can't give $1,000. Give it, with the purpose to master it, and then you are free. Final thoughts, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you're what you described, like you're creating that perception for yourself that you can afford to give that amount of tip, and like the way she brought it up was like, people are afraid to spend money because they have that fear, oh, the money's being taken away from them. The money is, they're giving it away and they're not going to get it back. And that's the fear, right? Like a lot of people fear that they can't make that money back. And,
You can grab him by the pussy. It's about the stuff. It's about the... I know Snuggles must have been thinking about that joke when she wrote that down there. But oh well, if we don't want to grab this the fear about the balls, we can grab the fear about the pussy. Like, I heard,
Yeah, but like, how does that sound, right?
Okay.
How does that sound, right? How do you perceive hearing "ground by the pussy" versus "ground by the balls"? Right?
That's all programming right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So back to what we're talking about, right? So, we have that fear of money, being given away, being taken away. Someone's taking it from you. It's like, oh my God, he's taking my, my $50 just so I can get the shirt. Like it's that fear that we have that we're not going to get that money back. And a lot of people have that fear, and that's why they don't spend that money. And the thing that's interesting about money, they call it currency, current, like it has to flow. And, there's also this thing that I've experienced that, when I made money, I would try to save, but I didn't have an intention for that savings. I was just saving. But then there's always, like, again, that fear, like, oh, I just have to have money. I'm scared that I'm not going to have enough money. But for some reason, I could never get that savings to keep growing because I wasn't allowing that money to flow. Again, that energy of like, letting it flow. And, if you make room in your bank account, like, I mean, it's a symbolic thing, right? Like, like a lot of people look at their bank account like it can only hold $1,000, like subconsciously they kind of think that way. And so that's kind of like what you shove into your bank account, and that's it. And for some reason, you can never let it grow because you have that mindset that, like you have to hold on to that money. So it's that fear, overcoming that fear of like, spend that money and just have that confidence that you're going to make it back. Just having that confidence that you're going to make it back and you're going to take action to make it back. So let money flow. You got to let it keep coming in and out. Don't let money get stuck because, like it gets dirty, right? Like in a pond, like you keep, water keeps flowing in there. It just keeps getting dirty, like it just doesn't do anything for you. But, money is supposed to be spent.
If you don't let it flow, it's going to get septic. We know that. With the flow comes the aeration. With the aeration comes the growth of the good microbes, not the bad ones, which are anaerobic and septic. But that analogy went too far to become funny, and I walk it back now. But in true fashion, we never quite have the last word when I say we're going to have the last. So let me try to give some kind of a summary as to, because I think that there were key points that were made, okay, and that we need to kind of recollect to remember the tools and the demarcations that we made.
Oh, we could talk all day about this. Like, there's just so much more to go into.
Of course,
we'll have to have a part two on.
Yeah, but you got to go chase some money. I know right now. So the idea is that when it comes to this concept of law of attraction, manifesting, and so on and so forth, we started out by saying, hey, how come we never talk about manifesting a cup of coffee or water or so on and so forth? It's always about things for which there is a perceived scarcity and for which there is a perceived difficulty, or that seems to be like a fate, where there's kind of things that kind of cyclically just kind of happen. You can't get out of it. And we said that it is very important to have this kind of a vibration type stuff, even though we changed the language from the hippie stuff to say, hey, it's about the confidence. Because if you do not have the confidence to ask for, when you ask for her number, or when you try to close the deal, or when you try to ask for a loan, or when you try to do things in life, it doesn't work. We notice that the people whom have more is given to. It's even written in the Bible and many other places. It's written in the Bible in multiple places. It just seems to be one of those things that is just true. And we can understand it again in this visual level in terms of that kind of human to human interaction. And then we went into the tool-like nature of money and understood that double coincidence of wants and why it is indeed ridiculous to have these kinds of notions about money that are negative. Okay. But before you get there, we went into the actual nitty-gritty of how things like visualization work, which is about exposure. Okay. exposure is the main thing. Visualization is a means of exposure. Visualization is a mode by which you get exposure. It's not the full kind of exposure of being born in the right kind of a family where everybody had an abundance mindset. It is a limited kind of exposure in the sense that you have to recreate in your mind the settings. And by that, your literal system, your nerves and everything gets used to that. It acclimates to it. And when you acclimate yourself to it, you can then better reproduce that mastery and confidence, right? Practicing it. So visualization is a subset of practice, which is all about a subset of exposure, and exposure makes you better when it comes to the this kind of manifestation. Okay. And really, I think that we also attacked very squarely the idea of aesthetics and money being bad and all that kind of stuff. And these are all frivolous pursuits. I think that no matter how the height of your spirituality or the kind of complementarity or aesthetic lifestyle you want to live, those notions are still contradictory. You cannot have these kind of crazy ideas just because the real people, I think, real spiritual people don't have these crazy notions. It's just your rank and file, dirty hippie out there. But and you told us your transition, how you went from a dirty hippie that hated people with money to start getting that money. And you can say in your own actual life, you can kind of see how that works. And in my life, I see it in the sense that the more I expand, the more the pipeline actually expands with me and the flow happens. And it's there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back, next week with another piece of popular culture to review, out here in the review with Ike and Joan. And shout out to those in the chat. Shout out to the super chatters from earlier. Shout out to Practitioner, I believe. Blind Guy, his wife, their life. I think probably Snuggles dropped something in there. Also, I think K Polymath, someone else which I'm missing right now. Thank you very much. Shout out to Game Changer in the house. Shout out to each and every one of y'all. And we are out. With that, we are out. What are the takeaways? The takeaways are, no, you have to expose yourself to these things. And you have to expose yourself via visualization, because visualization gives you access to the infinite. And you have to stretch yourself. And not everybody is equally capable of taking these tools and methods all the way to their nth degree. Not everybody is going to be the LeBron James of visualization and success, but you can always make your game better. Ain't that right? Game changer.
Yeah. Hang out with your rich friends that you secretly hate. You might learn something.
Hey, I think that's her story. She used to hate them. She used to hate them, hate watch them, and then hate hang out with them. And then she learned something, and now she lives happily ever after.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what was behind the curtain, the face of evil lurking with the shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could breach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.